Hello, I'm MC Tune, and it's Tuesday night, and we've got another talk on Flat Earth with my guest here, who is, hold on, let me get this here, goes by Greg. How are you, Greg?
Doing good. How are you?
I'm great.
I
It's
see your
been,
name. I don't see you yet.
oh, yeah, let me turn on my video there. Now people see two of me, and then I'll hide
There.
self view. There we go.
Uh-oh. It's a NASA t-shirt.
Yes, I I didn't have to. Usually, if I do these back to back, I switch my shirt in between, and so maybe I'll do that quick when nobody's looking. Uh, if you want to introduce yourself, whatever you want to say.
Okay. Yeah, we don't know each other much except just a chat with Craig on Facebook there. But I debated your friend Craig a few days ago, and it was quite well. He refers to a lot of his debates turn into dumpster fires, and we didn't have that issue. We had a good talk for the most part. We disagreed, but we listened to each other and had a good chat. So it was pretty cool. Um, what to say about me? I've got a background in military, law enforcement, and now a few years ago I gave that up to become a financial advisor. So that's what I do professionally. I don't have any special knowledge. I'm not an expert, but I'm also not a bozo. So I just kind of, when I'm looking at this, I'm looking at it high level. And these are simple things that I think anybody can see that just really the explanations can be very scientific, but at the end of the day, um, it's almost a way of modern science saying, hey, this is too complicated for you guys. You're too simple-minded like Greg. So you couldn't possibly understand this. So you just need to trust us. And so I have a problem with that because I don't trust science at all. And one of the things I looked up before our show is 10 of the most ridiculous things that scientists used to believe. And I'm just gonna share one or two of those later. But it's just science has really betrayed us in so many ways. Just like governments have. Just like governments have always lied to their people, yet we want to completely believe, hey, whatever you guys say you did, you went to the moon, you did this or that, and we just put so much faith in our government. And I don't know why, when you look at all the atrocities that governments have done in the past. So a little bit about me is I don't trust. That's one of the reasons I was able to come to this conclusion, is I'm not under the mind control to trust government, science. But I did not come to this right away, Mike. I was 37 when I came to the conclusion that the Earth wasn't the way we were taught. Yeah, so I spent 37 years of my life as a Glober, so I can sympathize with everyone on your channel. And I've always been, one thing I've had going for me, I've always been a young Earth creationist since high school. I was taught evolution in school. I really didn't like it. And then I found out there was alternative sciences, you know, and so I got into young Earth creation, got really into that, and that's something I've studied a lot. And so that's kind of my worldview. And so when it came to the flat Earth thing, I had already noticed some things like this angular light coming down from the sun instead of parallel. Um, I had already questioned some things about the model that sounded kind of ridiculous, but I had never known there was even an alternative thing out there. So I started looking into the flat Earth thing when a friend told me about it, and I did think it sounded crazy. But when I started looking into it, I found some of the things that we might be able to talk about tonight that just kind of confounded me, and like my wife, for instance, isn't into this. She really couldn't care less. But when I tell her some of these things, she can't believe it. Like we haven't been to the moon in 50 years, or we haven't had astronauts out of Earth's orbit in over 50 years, and or since the last moon landing and stuff like that. You know, these are things that most of us don't think about. So when we get hit with those things, it's kind of shocking. So that's kind of how I came around to it and realized, hey, you know, this isn't as believable. And so anyway, that's quite an open. I'll stop there, Craig, and I'd like to
Craig,
get.
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I don't look as good as Craig. Come on.
What?
I'm not Craig, I'm Mike. Kidding.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that, buddy.
The thumbnail. So you and I and Craig are in a group chat on Facebook, and the thumbnail I just made on a whim. I'm like, let me find, because Craig has a problem with his leg, and they're gonna take it off here at some point. He has to have a surgery. They're gonna remove his leg, yeah. And so I'm like, I'm gonna give him a little crap. I'm gonna find an old sailor because he's a sailor with a peg leg. So that picture, the picture of the thumbnail is Craig without NASA hair and makeup. So there you go.
Sorry to hear that about his leg, though, man.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. It got damaged in the military. So.
Oh, okay.
All right. So
what about you and your worldview? I really don't know much about you.
I studied computer science and electrical engineering at university. I have been a software engineer for my career. I write anti-spam software. My wife, she gave me this. I've had this for a long time. She's like, you need to put it up behind you. So this is spam email, and then this is you have mail, and I think this is supposed to be God, who is anti-spam. So
okay,
I have another one over there.
That's an interesting. Yeah.
Oh, she gave it to me. Price tag still on it. All right, $1. All right, so that wasn't
your only Christmas present, was it?
No, and this isn't recent. This was not recent at all. I've been writing anti-spam software for a good while.
Okay.
So, all right.
And you're in the lovely city of Minneapolis, huh?
Yes, Minneapolis. It was. It's been. There's been no snow yet, if you're wondering, or well, tiny bit. So I was outside in a t-shirt today.
Oh wow. So what's your worldview when it comes to science, religion, that sort of thing?
Oh, I'm a Christian, and I think science is a fantastic thing to find out how the universe works.
Okay.
So we have I have a troll. He's kind of a pet troll. The moderators play whack-a-troll.
Okay.
To see who can get him first when he makes a comment. He goes by 33 UC. But now, people, he's going to be on here on January 4th, so we need to maybe let him talk a little bit. If he's going to converse, let him converse. Let's do that.
Is he a flat earther?
Oh, yeah, and he thinks the earth is flat because he sees a 33 on a license plate. Or not a 33. Maybe it's two letters that he has assigned the number 3 to each of them. Of course, there's other letters on the license plate that he just ignores. Anyway, that's the evidence. I'm
sure he has more evidence than that.
No, that's about it. It's not much more. He thinks he's all that, but he's not all that. So I personally tested to see if the earth was flat myself.
Okay, how did you do that?
I did it by measuring the angle of the sun 4 times, and I did it on the same day as some friends in different parts of the world. The first one was December 2019 on the solstice. So it's coming up here again. And the angle of the sun in the sky was, I can pull up the details, but it's about 24 degrees. And my friend measured it in Israel, and it was a different angle. When we did the math to find out, because we know I know where I am in Minneapolis. I know how far I am from the Tropic of Capricorn.
Okay.
That's where the sun is on the day of the solstice. It goes around the Tropic of Capricorn, right? Yes. What about?
Is it
the cat?
Pythagoras? Pythagoras did a
grab
similar test, right?
Eratosthenes did a similar test.
Eratosthenes. Okay.
Yeah. Here, give me the cat. All right. Hold on. We've got a cat that wants to say hi. This is Raccoon the cat.
Cute. Oh,
Yeah.
he's adorable.
There she is.
Oh
okay.
my gosh.
There you go. Thank you. Bye-bye.
I cuddled with my cats quite a bit today. I got two about that size. That's the kitten, right?
Oh, she's full grown. She's just not very large for a cat.
Okay.
So, and my friend that did it is watching right now, Neriel. He's in the chat, or he sent me a message on Facebook. So we did this test, and we hypothesized if the Earth was flat and the sun was local, then we can do the math to figure out where it is. So let me see. I have a few papers here from previous conversations. And I've done this before, so I should be able to just grab, here you go. Here's the idea, right? This isn't, the numbers aren't correct on this. But here's ignore the labels. Here's where I am in Minneapolis. Here's the Tropic of Capricorn. So since we know this distance and we have a 90 degree here, and I measured this angle here, we know the elevation of the sun if the Earth is flat from Minneapolis. It's simple algebra, right? And this is covered, the math for this is covered in 8th grade. So we homeschool our kids. I'm the math teacher. The math book is right down there for 8th grade. And this is covered in 8th grade.
Okay. I'm trying to understand what.
So I measured the elevation of the sun if the Earth is flat.
Oh.
Right?
Okay, so you got 3,105.
No, like I said, this is, I'm just showing you a triangle. Ignore the labels because this is for a different measurement.
Okay.
Rather than take the time to draw a new one. So then Neriel did the same thing in Israel. So it's similar to the Eratosthenes, but the Eratosthenes only did one angle.
Okay.
Right? We did 3 on that day, myself, Neriel, and another person. And same thing, hypothesize that the Earth is flat, that the sun is small and local, and then measure with the same basic geometry the elevation of the sun. On the same day, we got different elevations of the sun, drastically different elevations of the sun, which would not be possible because the sun would have to be in multiple places at the same time. It can't do that. Right?
The sun's moving throughout the day though, right?
Yeah, but it moves around the Tropic of Capricorn on the day of the December solstice. So we know the distance from Minneapolis to the Tropic of Capricorn, from where Neriel was to the Tropic of Capricorn, from where everybody is into the Tropic of Capricorn. We know that distance.
Right.
So it does a circle that day. And so at local solar noon, that's where the sun is the highest in the sky.
Okay.
Which means it's directly due south of you on the Tropic of Capricorn. Right. So that's just, you do that simple math and it gives you multiple different elevations of the sun on the same day and at the same time, which isn't possible because the sun can't be in multiple places at the same time.
Okay. So you're saying that you believe as a result of this experiment that the sun rays that you're seeing are unreliable, maybe. I'm
not saying the sun rays are unreliable. I'm just saying it's simple, but the angle to the sun has nothing to do with the rays, right? It's just where the sun appeared in the sky.
Okay.
Right. The angle above horizontal, or the angle, the zenith angle. Zenith is the measurement from straight up is 0, and then down is the zenith angle, right?
Mhm. Okay. Yeah, I've never done anything like that. I
Yeah, and
can't
it's
really
easy.
speak to it.
You can do it any day. It doesn't have to be on a specific day, because we
Mhm.
know where the sun is on any day. People know the subsolar point, but it's kind of more interesting to do it on the solstice. And then we
Mhm.
did it in March on the equinox. Um, that particular day in March, it was cloudy here, so I could not do it that day. But several other people did it on the same day, had the same results. The sun, assuming the earth was flat, or hypothesizing the earth was flat, got multiple different conflicting answers. Did it again in the spring, did it again in the fall. And then back in March 2021, I filled in my year prior missing because the sun was up or not up, it was not cloudy.
Okay.
So 4 different days of the year. I don't remember exactly how many different measurements, somewhere 20 different measurements throughout those 4. And every one of us got a different height for the sun, conflicting
Mhm.
numbers. Then we same measurement, same data. We hypothesized that the earth is a sphere and that the sun is very far away. Um,
Okay, that was your
undefined how far away it was. Yeah, so just very, very far away. So far away that the that it doesn't matter. It's not close enough to matter anymore for the math.
Mhm.
Or the margin of error is going to be small.
Yeah.
So we did the same thing, and we did it was the Eratosthenes type measurement. And
Mhm.
on the first day that we did it in 2019, all 3 of us got the same radius of the earth within a small margin of error.
Mhm.
Same thing happened on in the spring, in the summer, in the fall, and then my come back around to the spring again. All of the measurements for the radius of the earth, when we hypothesized that the earth was a sphere and the sun is very far away, we got the same radius of the earth within a small margin of error. So when you do an experiment, you have a hypothesis. You figure out how you can test that hypothesis. And then you test the hypothesis. And if it matches, it supports the hypothesis. You haven't proved anything. Science doesn't prove
Mhm.
anything. What you've done is you have supported the hypothesis.
Okay.
On the other side, you have a hypothesis, you figure a test, you test it, and if it doesn't match, then you falsified the hypothesis. So we falsified the flat earth hypothesis because the elevations of the sun didn't match. And we confirmed the globe hypothesis because the radiuses were very close.
Okay, so just I really don't even understand that experiment at all. Just being totally honest,
Yep.
I can't really question it because it doesn't even make sense to me. But that was your conclusion based on a study you did with some friends of yours.
Yes.
So I don't have much to add to that at all, unfortunately. I'm sorry, but um,
Okay. I'd be happy to send you the stuff so you can have a look on your own time after this.
yeah, I mean, I'd probably definitely have to have to look at what you're talking about there, but it doesn't make sense to me as we're talking about it. Um, so where do you want to go next? Do you want me to talk
Well,
about
if
something?
you thought, if you think that something says that the Earth is flat,
Yeah,
maybe
well,
talk about that.
the first the first area I planned on going was because the Bible came up when I was talking to Craig, and he wasn't too happy with that. He's like, he doesn't believe the Bible or have any faith. He's quite honest about that.
Yep.
He's like, you need to talk to my friend Craig about that because we were
Mike.
talking about
Mike.
or Mike. Yeah, sorry about that. So we know that the Bible talks about the Earth being stationary lots of times. It doesn't say flat Earth. It doesn't describe a flat Earth. Um, I think that oversimplifies it anyway. I think of more of a terrarium. I think of a big ecosystem of that was created to sustain life. And so I'm a geocentrist for sure. I don't believe the earth to be spinning. I think that there's lots of proof of that, and the Bible does say that. But I have a bigger issue with the Bible that I wanted to bring up, and I don't know how many of your followers have a similar world view, but you really can't be an old earth, and I'm going to show you why. But you really can't be someone that believes in millions and millions of years of life and death, and believe the Bible. You have a choice to make there, okay? And so we learn in the Bible that all Scripture was given by inspiration of God. Is that something that you believe or adhere to?
I don't think that you could self-describe the book that the person is writing in that manner.
Okay, so what I'm interpreting you to say is you're not really sure what that verse was talking about when it says all
So
Scripture is given.
I think it could only be speaking of the Old Testament.
Only the Old Testament?
Yeah, it could not be speaking of the New Testament because the person who wrote that was writing the New Testament, and there are books in the New Testament that came after he wrote that.
Oh, good point. Okay. And most of what I'm going to bring up is Old Testament. So here's my point. In the New Testament, we find that sin came into the world through one man, Adam, right? And that was in Genesis. So Adam was the first man to sin, him and Eve, and that's considered the fall. That's where mankind fell and sinned for the first time, right? So and then by one man, Jesus Christ, we got propitiation for our sins. So you got the one man, Adam, brought sin into the world. The only way back to perfection, back to utopia, back to Christ, is through his sacrificial death, right? Do you adhere to that belief? Or you?
I'm fine with
You
that. I don't know where this
Okay.
is going.
You're about to find out.
For the flat Earth.
Yeah. So I'm getting there. Okay, so we have the genealogies in the Bible all the way from Adam to Jesus. It's about 35 to 4,000 years, something like that. And we know when Jesus lived because our calendars are made 8 after death and before Christ, right? 8 AD and BC. So if we are Bible believing, we can look back and we can say, well, we know how old the earth is biblically, how old the Bible says it is, okay? And then we can go into Genesis, the first few chapters. It says in the beginning that the earth and the heavens were created, right? But it doesn't say the earth and the heavens and the earth were created on the first day. It says in the beginning. So you can believe the earth and the heavens are older than the first day of creation, but then it goes into the first day of creation. That's when the sun and the moon were made, and there were morning and evening on the first day. And there were morning and evening on every day of creation. So it says it very specifically to show that those 6 days of creation were not millions of years. Those were days with morning and evening. And then we had Adam and Eve in the garden. And then we had the fall. Okay, so you cannot have millions of years of death and bloodshed and sin before the original sin in Genesis, correct?
No.
Okay. So what happens here?
That's a popular take on it, but that's not the only take on it.
Okay. Well, the message of the gospel gets polluted is my point, because if you go to Romans 5 in the New Testament, we have sin entering the world through Adam. That's the first sin. You don't believe that was the first sin?
I didn't say that. I just said, so I don't know where you're going on this in relation to the shape of the earth, but
okay.
The
thing is,
I just want to be clear. What you're describing is your position, and several other people's position, but not everybody's position.
Right. And I was just curious.
It's your interpretation of it, and that's fine. And like I said, it's common, but it's not the only one.
Sure. I was just curious if you had any kind of a explanation for that or not.
I could, but this isn't the venue for that.
Okay. This is where Craig sent me for that.
Well, no, this
we can transition.
This isn't a young Earth creation versus old Earth creation discussion. If you want that, I'd suggest that you go listen to Justin Brierley's Unbelievable podcast. There's plenty of those there.
Okay, so here, let me bring up something else then, if you don't want to talk about that. I understand. Okay. So you're very familiar with this, I'm sure. Now, I'm pointing this out. Like I said, I'm just a simple guy. I know you guys have an explanation for everything I'm going to point out, but when just talking to the listeners and other people watching, what I would ask is, what makes sense to you? Think about what makes sense to you. Now, in the globe model, the Earth is 3.5 million miles closer to the sun during the winter in our hemisphere. I know it's summer in other places on the Earth, which makes sense on a flat model, but not on a globe, because we're 3.5 million miles closer to the sun during our winter and 3.5 million miles further from the sun in the summer. The flat Earth model, the sun's route makes perfect sense for this, but not on a globe. The Earth's closest approach to the sun, called perihelion, comes in early January. It's about 91 million miles. And the furthest is in July.
Okay.
So that just, let me just say this. I know you think it has something to do with the angle of the Earth towards the sun. It just doesn't make any sense. It's one of those things where I'm looking at it as just a common guy and I'm going, that just does not make sense. How do you make that make sense?
I think it makes great sense. Your inability to see how it makes sense doesn't change that it makes sense. It's not the distance, it's the angle. But I might be able to illustrate it for you a little better. Right, let me see. Because yeah, all right. I'm gonna get my ruler out because I want these lines to be nice and straight. Let's see if that. I'm gonna make some lines here. I don't have my overhead camera set up to go, or I'd use that right now. But here we go. Every half inch. I'm gonna use a ruler, but it's still gonna be a little rough. It's 1, 2, 2. All right. So, all right, that doesn't work. Hold on a second. All right, I'm gonna have to explain it to you. The thing is,
okay,
you got the right answer, and mentioned the closer and farther. Has nothing to do with that. So you didn't need to mention that, right? For why the seasons happen. And somebody said in the chat that the Earth's wobble causes seasons. That's not the claim either. The Earth has a tilt. The tilt is, for the most part, does not change. So Earth is tilted that way when the sun's here, tilted that way when the sun's there. So the different hemispheres are farther, or not, they're tipped differently. So what happens is when the angle comes in at a slant, the same amount of sunlight is in the same amount of area,
Mm-hmm.
but that area gets spread over a larger section of the ground. And since it's spread over a larger section of the ground, you get less heat because the same amount of energy hits a larger area on the ground. So every square inch of the ground gets less of that energy. That's one. Number two, as you know right now in the northern hemisphere, we have less sunlight. So the sun is shining on the ground for less hours of the day. So since that's the case there, again, it's not as much energy hitting the surface of the earth. So that's how it works. Does that make sense to you? Because same amount of energy spread out over a larger area.
Let me just say this to you. You're doing kind of the same thing as Craig is doing, is you're saying, well, that's how it works. That's how it works, and that's what you believe. That's what you guys believe. No offense, but I mean, that's what your scientists tell you happens. That's what, when you take a class in college on science, they tell you that's what happens.
So
So
let
I know
me
that's
just
what
clarify
they
this.
say, but
Have you taken university level science classes to know
I have not been in. No, I
what's
have not.
taught in a university level science class?
No, but I assume that a
Okay,
lot of the stuff
so
that you and
let's
Craig.
not assume what happens in a university level science class, because it's not what flat earthers say it is. It's not just being crammed information in your head and then puking it out on the test.
Well, that's what all school is, though.
That's not what university level science classes are. Okay,
That's what most all
since
school is.
you don't know because you did
Yeah.
not take a university level science class, you should not speak about what happens in a university level science class because you don't know. So I can, because I did take these classes.
Right.
You are challenged to understand these things and to come up with the answers yourself. They give you enough information to go and figure things out. So one of my classes was electromagnetism. Challenging class. On top of it, the instructor had a strong accent, so it was hard to understand him. But the challenges that he would give us were crazy and difficult to do. He'd be like, all right, there's a sphere here, and it's got this charge, and there's a plane here, and it's got this charge.
Mm-hmm.
From the surface of the sphere to the other side of the plane, plot out the charge on that line. Wow, that's a big challenge. So, we've got another cat visiting. This is Turtle the cat.
Oh, wow.
Yes, our cats are named after other animals. Turtle's a popular guy on the channel. Here we go. And he's noisy. He's super noisy. Thank you.
I've got two cats about the same size. I've got a gray one and an orange one. So maybe they'll come visit me. They usually come visit me throughout the day.
All right. So that particular example, a couple people figured it out. I did not figure that out. I didn't yet have the analytical skills on it. So, but the thing was, we were to use our analytical skills. There is no amount of learning by rote and just taking those facts and placing it out there to the answer that would give the answer to that particular challenge. So that's more of what a university level science class is about.
That's fine.
You need to figure things out for yourself.
Sure. I would assume there's some of that, but overall, you and Craig are basically giving me modern science, their explanation of why these things happen the way they are. You haven't experienced them for yourself. You're just giving me the explanation that you've seen in a science class.
Now, what the thing is, and you probably don't have the analytical skills to do this, but you can confirm that. Anybody that does have the analytical skills can look at these things and say, all right, well, if this and this and this, then let me do the analysis of it to see whether or not that makes sense. and then come to the conclusion of whether or not it does make sense. And people have done that. Of course, they didn't get to where they're making those claims on accident, right? They got to those places based on analysis. So, like I said, somebody else could come along and do that analysis too to confirm if it's correct. And that's the point of science.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you something though. Are there, for the common guy, the common person, anybody should be able to observe things that prove the globe Earth model. It shouldn't be this hyper complicated thing where
I did this one.
Yeah, I told you. I don't even understand what you're talking about.
A guy should be able to do it. I did it, right?
Mhm.
Now, I went over it quick, but since you finished high school, you did the math necessary to understand this, right?
So,
I guess I'm
let me
assuming you
stop.
finished high school, right?
So wait a minute, Mike.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people a lot more qualified than me that have done experiments that have showed the Earth's not spinning, for instance. So even if you did prove what you think you proved, the Earth is not spinning. Those were people that were a lot more qualified than you.
I've never seen anybody with any level of qualification test if the Earth was spinning and come to the conclusion that it's not spinning. Never.
You don't know about Airy's failure?
Airy's failure did not conclude that the Earth was not spinning. Airy's failure.
It absolutely did. See, Craig said that too, but I looked it up.
Let's look it up.
Absolutely did.
I will pull it. I'll put it up on screen, and we can look at the part where he concluded that the Earth is not spinning.
I thought you'd say that, and I've got quite a few quotes here from the Michelson-Morley experiment as well that I'd like to share.
All right.
If that's your position, I'd like to share.
All right, just a second. We'll start with Airy's failure, since that's the one you were talking about.
He was very much a science guy. I think he was one of the main people of the time. Can't remember his resume, but.
All right. Airy's failure, the actual name of it is on the supposed alteration in the amount of astronomical aberration of light produced by the passage of the light through a considerable thickness of refracting medium. And his conclusion was, I think myself justified in concluding that the hypothesis of Professor Klinkerfues is untenable. And I love Professor Klinkerfues' name. It's a very awesome name. So, is there a part in here that in the actual paper that we should look at here to, other than the conclusion about Professor Klinkerfues?
Yeah, he was referring to the motion of the Earth. Klinkerfues.
Was he?
Yeah, he had. That's my understanding of it. From what I read on a different, I've got my own stuff here too that I don't have it pulled up anymore, but nobody's going to read all that and take anything away from it. That
you said that this study proved that the Earth does not rotate, so it should be. We should just be able to pop right in here and see where he.
Well, exactly. I think you're overcomplicating it almost intentionally, because it did prove that, and so did Michelson-Morley. Now let me read.
But hold on. If it proved it, then it would just be in the paper here. So where in the paper did he conclude that this shows?
You already read Klinkerfues. His was untenable.
And what specifically then did Klinkerfues claim?
Well, there was two conclusions, and the second one was that the motion of the Earth, and the other one was irrelevant to what he was stating there. So,
well, I can read this for here. Professor Klinkerfues maintained that as a necessary result of the undulating theory, the amount of aberration would be increased in accordance with the formula which he has given, and he supported it by the following experiment. Right, so he talks about that. So Klinkerfues computed that the effect of the 8-inch column of water and a prism in the interior of the telescope would be to increase the coefficient of aberration by 8 seconds of arc. The observation appeared to show that the aberration was really increased by 7.1 seconds of arc. It does not appear that this observation was repeated. So there isn't ever actually anywhere in here that Klinkerfues declares that the Earth would not be rotating if he didn't find the result.
Okay, so what you're reading is from
this is
Airy,
the paper that Airy's published. Yeah,
I know. Let me talk. So Airy was a globalist. He did not want to find what he found, and he's not going to come out and say it the way that I'm saying it.
Oh, so he didn't prove that the Earth was stationary.
Yeah, he did by accident. That's why they call it Airy's failure. Let me read something to you because you've been reading and I want to get in here. So there was a few of them. There was Airy's failure, there was Michelson-Morley, then there was Sagnac, and then there was a few more. Okay, and I'm just going to read Einstein on the Michelson-Morley experiment. Einstein wrote, if Michelson-Morley experiment had not brought us into serious embarrassment, no one would have regarded the relativity theory as a halfway redemption. Now we find out that basically Einstein came up with the theory of relativity as a desperate attempt to explain why they did not detect the motion of the Earth. Now the experiments on relative motion of the Earth and ether have been completed with the result decidedly negative. That's Michelson. He said it was decidedly negative. In addition, the Michelson-Morley null result was further substantiated by the null results of other second-order experiments of different kind, namely the Troughton-Noble experiment, 1903, the experiments of Riley and Brace, 1902 and 1904. These problems and their solution led to the development of Lorentz transformation and special relativity. The Troughton-Noble experiment was an attempt to detect motion of the Earth through luminous ether and was conducted in 1901 through 1903. It was based on suggestion by George Fitzgerald that a charged parallel plate capacitor moving through the ether should orient itself perpendicular to the motion. Like the earlier Michelson-Morley experiment, Troughton and Noble obtained a null result. No motion relative to the ether could be detected. This null result was reproduced with increasing sensitivity, and they have other names in here from 1925, 1927, 1994, all the way to 1994 with the same results.
Yeah, the Michelson-Morley experiment's been reproduced many, many times with greater and greater accuracy.
Right, and so I think what Einstein was admitting there is they only came up with the theory of relativity, special relativity, to try to explain why we're not detecting motion of the Earth. You know, we're not seeing that in airplanes.
No, it was not at all to do with the motion of the Earth. It was because the aether hypothesis was falsified. So then it was, you're correct that it was a response to that partially, that they're like, well, what does light propagate through? How does that happen? Because aether was falsified. So here, let me explain this here. Michelson-Morley conclusion: unable to measure relative motion between the Earth and the luminiferous aether. Okay, that's what they discovered. And so, taken in isolation, if you look at Michelson-Morley and don't include any other experiments in it, you can conclude, again, in isolation, or suggest that the aether does exist, but it must be at the same velocity as the surface of the Earth. So either the Earth would not be moving and the aether would not be moving, or if the Earth is moving, then the aether is moving at the same rate as the Earth. That's what you could conclude, taken in isolation of Michelson-Morley. Right? And I know one of your positions is Earth not moving, and so you could, in isolation, take that, right? But that requires that the aether is not moving, right? So the Earth is the Earth would be stationary and the aether would be stationary, both of them, right?
By the aether, do you also mean the stars, the sun, the moon, all of that included?
No, I'm just saying all it was about is the luminiferous aether. Michelson-Morley didn't look at any stars.
Airy did. He was looking through stars.
That's a different experiment, right? So that's why I said take it in isolation, right? So the aether must be stationary if the Earth is stationary, if you're going to go with a conclusion that the aether still exists from Michelson-Morley, because they could not measure that they had their interferometer and there was no interference pattern, or is a very small interference pattern, and repeated, more sensitive, still no interference pattern with the more precise measurements, right? So the problem, though, is that there are not, you can't look at it in isolation. You have to look at other experiments. And you mentioned Sagnac. It's Sagnac. It's Sagnac, I think. It's not in English. So Michelson-Gale. So Michelson did another one, and Peterson is often included in it. 1925, they did it. They did the interferometer differently, though. So let me show you. I have so many papers here. I just need to find one. There we go. So the first one, the Michelson-Morley, this is the basic shape, right? And it's an L, right? You see that?
Okay.
Then the Michelson Gale experiment, they made a big rectangle, right? So since they're different experiments and they're similar and they're measuring different things. And the Michelson-Gale, because of the shape there, because the light has to go all the way around it, and it gets split. It goes one way, and it goes the other way, and then it's recombined on the other side, right? If this entire device is rotating, right, it was on the surface of the Earth, though, for this particular study. But if that is rotating, then the Sagnac effect will measure an interference pattern. That's the Sagnac effect. It measured an interference pattern even though it was fixed on the surface of the Earth. So how could it do that? Now, if the aether exists, Michelson-Morley says that it's stationary with the surface of the Earth, but Michelson-Gale measured movement. Which one is it? Because it can't be both.
Huh. Well, that kind of figures, I guess.
I don't know why flat earthers bring up Sagnac or Michelson-Gale. It doesn't make any sense to me, because maybe they haven't figured out. Because I've heard.
I'll tell you why.
Let me finish my sentence. Globebusters, okay. Bob Nodell has said that that Michelson-Gale was the movement of the aether over the Earth, but it doesn't make sense because Michelson-Morley says it's not moving. So go ahead.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things. Well, first of all, this whole outer space solar system heliocentric model started with Copernicus.
Let's stay on topic. Let's stay on topic.
500 years ago, when we had horse and buggy. Okay, so I'm making an important point. You're talking over most people's heads. I'm making an important point that people need to think about. Okay, this was when people had horse and buggy, and yet he predicted everything that we see now. But really, there was some real problems along the way, and this was the big one: the rotation of the Earth. They put a blimp up in 1917 in France, and they expected it to be halfway around the world later in the day, and it was still sitting right there. We have problems with flights, both going east to west and west to east, with no detection of any spin of the Earth, and even
Hold on.
worse.
Conservation of momentum exists. Are you saying that it doesn't exist? I mean, that would be news. That would be news if conservation of momentum didn't exist.
Well, that doesn't, I mean, it's an explanation, but it doesn't change the fact that this Coriolis effect is not observable, except when you guys want it to be, when we can't see it. But when we can see it,
what you just described was not Coriolis. What you described was, as soon as you leave the ground, conservation of momentum stops. That's what you just described. Not Coriolis.
Is this conservation of momentum similar to the theory of relativity? Is that similar?
The conservation of momentum is something that's taught to elementary school kids. It's one of the laws of motion. If an object is in motion, it will continue to stay in motion. If it's at rest, it will continue to stay at rest. That's conservation of momentum. You've heard of that before.
Okay. So explain to me.
So when something is on the surface of the Earth and it stops being on the surface of the Earth, but just above the surface of the Earth, whether the Earth is moving or stationary, the conservation of momentum applies. If it was in motion before, it's going to remain in motion. If it was stationary before, it's going to remain stationary until something else acts upon it. Mm-hmm. So you would not expect a blimp or a balloon or a helicopter, just because it lifts off the ground, to start moving laterally. Any more than if you're in a bus and you throw a ball across the aisle to a friend, you don't expect that ball to go flying backwards, because you're traveling 60 miles an hour down the road. The ball, it doesn't fly to the back at 60 miles an hour. It just goes back and forth between you and your friend. Conservation of momentum.
What do you think would happen to a drone if you hovered a drone in that same bus? Have you done that?
If you have the drone doing a GPS lock, it will try to fly backwards. But if you don't do that, if you just have a drone that's floating, it will just float there. Yeah.
It'll just float in the bus and not go towards the back of the bus.
Correct.
Have you tried that?
No.
I don't think it would. I think you'd have a much different result.
You think conservation, but saying that you are claiming, you're claiming that conservation of momentum doesn't exist. Then.
I mean, I'm not that familiar with whatever that is.
You're not familiar with conservation of momentum?
I am very intentionally not a scientist. I don't believe most of what they say. So,
hold. But yet you cited the output of scientists just a little bit ago.
I cited a result they did not want to come up with, but they did come up with the result, even though they didn't want to come up with that result.
Your standard of evidence here is a little shaky. You say you don't trust science, you won't accept it, but then you cited science.
Well, you're a perfect example. I mean, you keep trying to go into these explanations that don't make any sense to a common person. Because you hide behind.
They don't need to make sense to you.
You're hiding behind complication, basically.
They don't need to make sense.
Hey, I'm just a regular guy. I know that, if I'm camping and I'm around a campfire, I get a little closer to it, it's warmer. And you're telling me that, and frankly, your explanation of the Earth made no sense of this angle. It doesn't make any sense to a common person. So I'm trying to draw you back into, let's have a conversation.
Greg, what you're basically saying is that you're not smart enough to understand it, therefore it's wrong. That doesn't work.
Well, Greg, you guys are full of your digs about, it's all that I just don't understand. I'm not.
You are the one that personally declared you don't understand it. Not me. You declared that you don't understand it, Greg. You said, I'm just a common man and you're hiding behind these complications. You are then declaring that you don't understand.
I don't find your explanations to be convincing at all. That's the problem.
So you didn't understand.
That's what the problem's always been.
So you didn't understand. I get it, but that doesn't make
I
it
could
wrong.
say that too. I could say, Mike just didn't understand. That's why he doesn't agree with me.
What didn't I
mean,
understand?
You don't understand that when you're closer to a heat source, you feel the heat more.
I definitely understand that. Yeah. Why would I not understand that?
Well, you missed it on this discussion.
No, I didn't.
When you're
Because if you move 1% closer to the fire, how much difference in heat will you experience? How much? Not 1%. How much? It depends how far away you are, because it's, what is it? Inverse square law, right? You don't know what that is even.
I don't study this stuff.
Okay. So exactly. And Greg, that's how you were fooled.
No, it's not. This is stuff you can see with your eyes. Let me can I share my screen? I'd like to show you something.
Yeah,
I'd like to show you something common people can see with their eyes. You don't have to be a rocket scientist.
Okay, go ahead. Oh, hold on. It might not be set to allow sharing. Let me check.
No, it's not.
Yeah, hold on. There you go. All right, go ahead. It's not sharing yet.
Oh, it didn't. Okay, here we go. Yeah. Okay, can you see this YouTube screen?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm just going to play a couple minutes here where we've got
we're going to
this
watch
is
Darth.
The problem of this is the problem of seeing too far. And Craig told me every time I could see something, it was refraction or a mirage or whatever, and you just can't believe your own eyes. Well, this one's pretty irrefutable because you have a mountain at 170 miles away, and I'll just let him explain it here.
Oh, I'm glad I'm not hearing anything.
So you can't hear this at all?
No, fortunately.
Okay, can you hear it now?
Like tiny little clips. That.
So what he's saying is
Dearth the one that you listen to most? Is he your Papa Flurf?
No, he's not. But he's pretty good. So let's not get distracted by the names like Craig did. Let's focus on what he's saying, just the content. Okay, that's what's important. So I'm going to play it again, and I'll tell you what he's saying. Okay, so he's explaining that Mount Carrigue, I think it is in France, is here we go. It won't let me make it larger, but he's explaining that Mount Carrigue is 170 miles away, and it should be over a mile. The tip of it should be over a mile below your vision. Yet a couple times a year, the sun sets just so, like it's doing right here, and you have two choices. It's either the Earth is way bigger than you say it is for it to be a globe, or it's a flat Earth. The third option of refraction doesn't work because these mountains, if a refraction can't block the sun, but as you're going to see as the sun sets over these mountains, speed it up a little bit. You see that?
Yep.
The mountain's actually blocking the sun. So,
all right. So what's the distance?
170 miles.
Okay. And what's the observer's height?
Let me see if he says that at the beginning here.
They generally don't.
Oh no, they usually do.
And then of course I'm going to ask for the height of the mountains there that you're looking at. Do you pay for, did you purchase the app?
Come on. Okay, so he's talking to a podcaster, and he's saying from this height, but he did not say what it was. But he's saying what the math shows is that it would be a mile below the
Yeah,
what you
I've
can see.
never seen a flat earther do the math right. They always use 8 inches per mile squared, which is wrong. So that's why I'm asking you for the observer height, because when 8 inches per mile squared doesn't have a way to enter in the observer height.
Frankly, you have to say that's wrong. Otherwise, you're stuck.
Well, if it's a lie, it's wrong. If it's wrong, it's a lie. Dearth is lying because he's using the wrong math. I don't know if he's intentionally lying or if he's not smart enough to use the right math, but I've never seen a flat earther use the correct math, ever.
They got that math from the globe model. Now,
no, they got it. They got it from Robotham.
So if it's only 8 inches a mile, it's not 8 inches a mile squared, then you have a huge globe.
It's
on your
the
hand.
wrong math.
How big is the Earth?
It's the wrong math. All right, let's go over the math for you here. Right, you don't understand the math already. I know you don't understand the math.
Well, actually,
so if I show you the math, you're not going to understand
really
it.
easy to understand. Some of the things that I see are really easy to understand. They're not that
But you're
complicated.
making a claim.
But
that
you have to make up things
should
like
see
mirages.
too much. You should see this much. Using the wrong math is a lie, because it's just wrong. And so if he's claiming something based on 8 inches per mile squared, and that's the wrong formula, then he's just lying to you and you were deceived.
Okay. What math did Bedford use in his experiment?
I don't know.
Well, that's pretty important. That was one of the most pivotal flat Earth tests, one of the most well-known of all time. And they come up with the same numbers at 6 miles that these guys do.
Yeah. So you don't have, so you cited this test, but you don't know the actual details of the test. So we can't actually test to see if it's correct or not, because you don't have the details. Because Dearth didn't give you the details. He just wants to make the claim so that he can sell more copies of his app.
Well, okay. Well, first of all, this is demonstrated all the time, all over the place. Look,
I've never seen, I constantly ask.
No, yes, you have.
Give me the location of the observer, the height of the observer, the distance to the object, and the height of the object. Give me those things. Never is it given, and you can't give it right now because Dearth didn't give it to you.
You're
give it
lying.
to me right now. Let's go. Get the picture and get those 4 pieces of information.
You said they
Let's
never
go.
provide that.
Let's see
There's
it.
lots of them where they
Let's
do.
see it right now. Let's get it right now.
But I'm going to do you one even better. Okay. This is for hundreds of years. You guys relied on this evidence. Boats disappear over the curve.
You're changing the topic when you're cornered.
No, it's the same topic.
You did not have any evidence to support your lie.
Buddy. This is the same
this is
topic.
a different topic.
So 1.2 miles is where the horizon is supposed to be. You don't want to hear this.
That's wrong. That's another lie.
That came from you guys. Craig told me that.
Yeah, it's another lie.
Craig lied to me.
No.
1.2 miles?
That's a lie. That's neglecting refraction.
Oh, okay, but the horizon. So here's my point. Your
point is you can lie about stuff and then prove the Earth is flat if you lie about it.
You really don't want to hear this, do you? You really don't want to hear this.
Yeah, go ahead. I don't like liars. That's why I don't want to hear it. I don't like liars.
Oh, that's what happens when I see what happens when people don't agree with you.
No, you see what happens when you lie. Filthy
don't
liar.
Get all upset. Mike.
I'm upset because you're lying.
I'm just trying to make
you're
a point
fake
that you
Christian
don't want to hear.
lying. That's why I'm upset.
I believe the Bible.
No,
Mike.
you don't. Why are you lying then? Stop lying.
Okay.
So the distance to the horizon, neglecting refraction is 1.22.
So let me say this for the listeners, since you're going to keep interrupting. For hundreds of years, your evidence was ships disappeared over the horizon. Now, as soon as we got digital cameras and we could bring those right back into the view, now you have to come up with this refraction,
show me
math
one
magic, and all this
one video.
nonsense.
One video of a boat going over the horizon and then zoom bringing it back. One video.
There's lots of those.
One. Just one. I'm not asking for lots. I'm asking for one. Let's see it. Come on, liar. One.
Oh.
Where it went over the horizon. It got obstructed by the horizon halfway, 3/4 of the way, fully obstructed by the horizon. Zoom brings it back. One. I'm just asking for one. You don't have one.
You guys really get upset when you're...
Zero of them.
You guys get really upset when
I'm
your faith in the
upset
priest
that
of
a
science
fake
is
Christian
tested.
is lying about things. You
Okay,
just
well-
lied again, because there is no video of a
Okay, Craig.
of a boat going over the horizon and then coming back. It's never happened. I ask for it constantly. Nobody
All
ever
right.
brings it. And you're not going to bring it now either, because they don't exist.
I would like to, but if you call me, if you start saying those things about me again, it just shows you've lost
Okay,
the debate. When you
right.
get that nasty,
Bring it up. Bring it up right now.
When
I'll
you
stop
get that
talking to you.
nasty,
I'll stop
have
talking to
lost
you.
the
You go
debate.
bring it up where it goes
it's over.
over the
So
horizon,
don't. I'm just
and
giving
then
you a
Zoom
warning.
brings it back. Go ahead.
You
Get it.
say it again, you've lost the debate and the conversation's over. You can't act like a decent human
Go ahead.
being
Get it.
because you got someone that doesn't agree with you.
Get your video. Go ahead.
You guys are all the same. It's just
Get your video. All right, well, yeah, I think you're right. YT sucks. Is that YouTube sucks? So, all right, let's see if we have any. Mr. Tube, first name Fast, says the cat knocking the cup off the earth looks like my Mikey. Coincidence? I think not. Your Mikey? I don't know your Mikey. Is that your kid? Let me see if there's any that I can. Gutsit Gibbon. Gutsit Gibbon. I will look up that. All right, where did my oh, in case you didn't hear, I made a Toonies shirt. I'll pop it in the chat there if anybody's interested in it. I'll show it to you even right here. There it is. That's the sweatshirt. There's the t-shirt coming up. I ordered the sweatshirt for myself. In the mug there, it's a full all the way around mug. It's pretty fun. Let's see. I suppose I could get the one by Dazza the cameraman, huh? What do you think? Who would win, St. George or King Gildera? I can't place them. I'm sorry. Stellarium Celestia. I don't know who those are. But here we go. Getting Dazza here. Oh, Aaron Webster, thank you. Brenda says it would put drop-down menus on my website. It's WordPress, so I'm limited to what they can do. But yeah, that's a good idea. I'm open to anybody that's interested in being a webmaster to fix those kinds of things. So let's see. I think I have the one from Dazza. Yep, this is the one from Dazza.
Here is a video that I filmed just the other day with the
This is the one with
P1000.
his P1000.
And let's see what happens when I zoom in and pause as I go. We're looking at 3 ships out here, 1, 2, and there is a third one out here. So let's zoom in and see what we find. As you can see, I'm well above the sea level. The beach is down below me. I'm up high on a car park. Now we can see these ships coming into view, and all the optical zoom does, I zoom in. Are we seeing more of the ship above the horizon to take a good screenshot that we...
Oh, it was sending the audio to him.
Okay, so this is one right here, Mike, I think.
Okay. Let me put that full screen. Okay.
That might work.
Okay, so is it the big ship that we're looking at?
Oh. Well, when he comes all the
cut out or something. I think the connection dropped. Oh, there you're back. You were gone for a second. Anything you might have said, I didn't hear for the last few seconds.
So look at it from the start when he starts out. Oops. He starts at the shore right here, okay? So from here, how many ships do you see with your naked eye?
Well, that's not my naked eye. That's just a camera. But they're all too small to see.
Yeah.
They're not over the horizon. None of those went over the horizon. They're just too small to see.
Well, I mean, even Bill Nye used that evidence that, when a ship goes too far for the eye to see, it's over the curve. That's been the evidence.
I don't know. I'm not Bill Nye, and he's not here to question what he was saying exactly.
But I do remember being taught that in school. That was something we were taught.
Okay, I don't care about your education. Here's the thing. That's not over the horizon. So can you show me a video of a boat that goes over the horizon and gets obstructed, bottom first, the bottom quarter, bottom half, bottom 3/4, all of it obstructed, and then zoom in more and it comes back?
I've seen a lot of them. I just didn't prepare for that. I guess if we took a long break, we could. But honestly, I think I'm done talking to you, man. You're just a rude asshole.
Here's the thing. It's never happened, Greg. It's never once happened.
You get so mad when
this
when
is what we
disagrees
see.
with you,
it's too small to see, and then you zoom in. You're like, oh, it came back from over the curve. It was never over the curve. It was just too small to see. But I can show you
until we got digital cameras, and now we can bring them back into view.
But you didn't show it getting brought back into view after it went over the curve. You just showed too small to see. No, too small to see. Then zooming in, not going over the curve and then bringing them back. No amount of zoom has ever brought something back after it's gone over the curve. Never. Well, this is just too small to see. Do you have a video of it going over the curve or being obstructed by the horizon, bottom up, and then zoom bringing it back, reducing the amount?
The reason we don't is because there's no curve. You're asking me to assume there's a curve. I don't believe in a curve.
Your assertion is that they're obstructed bottom up, and then zoom makes them be not obstructed bottom up as much. That's right. That's what you're saying. They're being brought back after they've gone.
Yeah, I'm saying they're just on top of the water, and you're just zooming them back into view. They're a long ways away, so they look like they're over a curve. But when we got digital zoom cameras, we bring them right back into view.
All right, I'll show you this here. I'm gonna send you what
that should have been the end of it after relying on that for evidence for hundreds of years. But it just another explanation. There's just another explanation that follows.
But you didn't show what you said you were going to show. You didn't show it going obstructed, getting obstructed, and then zoom reducing the obstruction. You didn't show that, so I don't know why.
Well,
why you thought that was something. It wasn't.
So. I didn't prepare for it. I could find them. There's videos out there. A lot of them are censored on Google, but I could find better videos for you given more time. They're all over.
I ask constantly, and I never get them. But here, you see what I'm showing here?
Well, you guys only see what you want to see.
All right. Do you see this? Are you seeing the video?
Yeah, Craig showed me this one, and
all right, and so this is a P1000, the flat earther camera of choice.
Okay.
And he's going to increase the zoom and see if increasing the zoom brings it back, right? So reduces the amount of obstruction, because there's clearly on that one that's inside the box there's clearly something obstructing it bottom up. So your assertion is that when we increase the zoom, it will reduce how much is obstructed, right?
Yeah, but the problem with this one is you don't have enough zoom. There's limited capacity for our eyes, like you said, but also for cameras. They can only zoom so far. It's not infinite. So that ship is simply too far.
But here's the thing. The zoomed out image and the zoomed in image are the same amount of obstruction. The bottom part there, that's the zoomed out version. Do you see that it's the same amount of obstruction? The amount of zoom made exactly 0 change in the amount of obstruction.
That just doesn't mean a whole lot to me, Mike.
I don't care that it doesn't mean a lot to you. I understand that you don't understand science. There is no plausible mechanism to explain that the bottom of that ship could be obstructed if there's nothing in the way.
Based on your beliefs, your faith in the nothing.
Well, then show the proper plausible mechanism that causes something that's not blocked to appear blocked.
Well, this is your video. I would say zoom in farther. I mean, if you don't have a camera,
changed the amount of zoom, and it did not change the amount of obstruction.
But I'm telling you,
that's
if
your
the camera
claim.
Was capable of zooming in farther, that would come right back into view. I've seen it a lot of times.
I've never seen it.
If you're at the limited capacity of the camera, sure. I mean, then you're at the limited
So the bottom
capacity.
picture is zoomed out. Top picture is zoomed in. Did not change the amount of zoom. So how much zoom is necessary to change the amount of obstruction?
Well, it depends how far the ship is away, obviously. See, that's an obvious thing.
Obviously, right? And what's the plausible mechanism that causes the never before shown in video? Because every time I ask, I can't find it. What's the plausible mechanism that's causing this to happen?
Well, you just don't accept the videos that you're shown.
You didn't show one. Yeah, you showed a video of it being too small, not a video of it being obstructed bottom up.
But Mike, if you were sitting there with your naked eye, you would say that you wouldn't see those ships.
Of course I wouldn't see them. They're too small to see. All that the camera did was make something too small to see, big enough to see. There's nothing special about that.
Your model depended on for hundreds of years.
No, it's bottom up obstruction. That's what we're talking about. Bottom up obstruction. So show me where bottom up obstruction is reversed.
If it's too far to see, you can't have it both ways. If you're saying it's too far for you to see, but you'd need to be able to observe it going over the curve, how's that possible?
Because you can observe things going over the curve with the naked eye. But this video you showed did not show that.
What? Okay, so you're saying they're so far away you just can't see them at all.
They're too small to see. The angular size of the objects are too small to see with your naked eye or with a camera that's not at a high zoom.
I mean, that's obviously way further than 1.2 miles right there. So they should be over the curve, right?
Where did you get 1.2 miles from?
That's where the horizon is.
No, it's not. It depends on the height of the observer and refraction.
Yeah. Well, these are several miles away. They should be over the curve. I mean, that's your model. That's what you guys say.
How? You don't know how far away they are. You don't know whether or not the globe predicts that these particular ones should be over the curve.
I have watched a lot of these videos, and a lot of times they're several miles out. They're as far,
Sure.
I've seen them as far as 12 miles out.
And what's the observer's height? We don't know. This wasn't a test of that. He's not, he's just checking to see if Zoom, because it's your common claim, Zoom changes the amount of obstruction. He's testing that. Did not find it to be the case. Falsified your claim.
Okay, well, I don't buy your explanation for this at all. Do you want to talk about one more thing before we call it a night? Because
Sure.
I've got something.
Sure, go ahead.
Circumnavigation. The other night, I brought up that we never fly over Antarctica, and we've never boated around it. Now, Craig brought up the Vendée yacht race. Okay. So that yacht race is supposed to be 16,000 miles to go around Antarctica, approximately. This is an 80-day race, is the fastest, about the fastest they do it is 80 days. Okay. That was the winner this year. So I did a little bit of math. Their average speed is 34 miles per hour. They don't stop and sleep like I thought they might. They keep going 24 hours a day. So I assumed that they went slower when they slept. But even being conservative, the least amount of miles that can be assumed, and this is 34 miles per hour times 19 hours a day for 80 days. And the most miles that can be assumed is about 65,000 miles. And that's 34 miles per hour times 24 hours times 80 days. These yachts don't go 4 miles per hour. If the race was 16,000 miles an hour or miles, they would have to go 4 miles per hour. However, if they really are going 59 to 65,000 miles, they are going around the 60th parallel all the way around the Earth. That actually makes a lot more sense on a flat Earth model. How do you explain that?
All right, let's run these numbers again. So, what was the number of days?
80 days is the quickest. There was the record was 74 days, but this year it was 80 days.
Okay. So we've got 80 days, and what speed did you say they're going?
The average speed, I Googled it, was 34 miles per hour.
Okay.
And that's about 31
right. And
knots.
where does the race start and stop?
Usually it's France.
Okay, so it starts in France.
Yeah, but
and then goes around Antarctica, and then where does it end? Back in France?
Craig told me New Zealand, but what I read was that it started in France. So I
don't know.
We're not entirely sure about that.
Okay, so you did the math. It sounds like you did the math for just doing the circumnavigation around the 60th parallel south about.
Well, they say the entire race is 16,000 miles. That's what they claim.
Okay. That's on their website or somewhere?
Yeah, that the race covers 16,000 miles. And Craig said that the whole thing was GPSed, and he didn't produce any evidence of that whatsoever, but that's what he said.
Okay.
But the math is simple. I mean, all you have to do is do some really simple math, something I can do, right? And you're ending up with way more than 16,000 miles, unless those things are hardly moving.
All right. So the length of it is 24,000 nautical miles. It starts and ends in France.
Okay. So 16,000 must be just around Antarctica.
Yes, I think that's about correct. So 24,000 nautical miles in 80 days. Right? So if we can do the math for nonstop, 24 hours a day, right? That's probably, I don't know if that's what they do or not, but we can run that to see what their speed must be.
Yeah, they only sleep 4 or 5 hours a day, it says, and they keep going while they're sleeping.
Okay.
They actually showed the.
So that works out to be 12.5 nautical miles per hour.
For the 24,000 that you're assuming?
Yeah, 80 days. I'm not assuming. I'm looking at the Wikipedia page for it, because their
Right.
website has some marketing fluff on it, so I just don't want that on there.
Right. So, so they'd have to go 12 miles per hour.
Yeah, they'd have to average 12 miles per hour.
And according to
12 nautical miles per hour. It's a little more than 12 miles per hour.
So yeah, and if you look at the racing yachts, they can go 40 miles an hour, but the average speed is 34 miles per hour of these yachts, and they're racing to win, so it's a competitive thing.
So wait.
So
their average speed is what?
40 miles per hour.
Where did you get that?
If you look up the fastest yachts, how fast can they go? It's a yacht race.
Yeah.
So the fastest yachts, they can go up to 40 miles an hour, but the race itself, they claim that the average speed is 34 miles per hour. That's coming from the Vendée race. Okay.
Okay. And are you familiar with how wind-driven ships do things?
Yes.
How they go, if they need to go upwind, for example, how do they do that?
Well, it's working the sails the right way, but they're also using the ocean current to their advantage as well.
Okay, but when you're going upwind, how do you go upwind when you're in a sailboat?
I've done it a few times, but I can't totally recall. You just move the sail a different direction, and
No, against the wind. It's not just moving the sail to move against the wind.
How do you go? Just get to your point.
When you go against the wind, you have to tack.
Okay.
You go back and forth. So your overall distance over time is greatly reduced.
Okay. Some diagonal stuff there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you've done this before?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you tack?
Been in Connecticut 25 years ago. So don't. And then a little bit in the Puget Sound, but yeah, I do remember doing that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what was your point about this?
Well, my point is,
sounds like you got the wrong distance, right? You said 16,000 miles.
Oh, that's something I read on their website. And according to Craig, sometimes they take off from New Zealand, so that would that might account for that. I'm not sure.
Okay, so it is 27,600 miles.
Okay. So you're saying that tacking accounts for an extra 35 to 40,000 miles?
No, I'm saying that tacking greatly reduces your speed. Right, because if you can go 20 knots, but you have to tack, you're not moving, you're not covering 20 nautical miles in an hour. You're covering less than 20 nautical miles in an hour.
Yeah, from what I looked at, it looked like they were using the current and the wind to their advantage, but they're the ones that state that the average miles per hour is 34 miles per hour throughout the entire race.
Where was that?
Well,
because I ran the numbers.
It was on the internet.
Okay, I ran the numbers, and we didn't
just
get
type
that.
in. Let's see, what is the average speed? Compared to the last race, speeds on such boats will increase 10 knots in what are known as cross-reaching winds, and boats will be able to maintain average speeds of 30 knots or 34 miles per hour, 55 kilometers per hour for several hours at a time.
Okay, so not the whole time. Just in favorable
average
conditions.
speeds and what are known as cross-reaching winds. Does that sound favorable?
I don't know. It's clearly talking about a limited part of the race, that it's during favorable times and that they can do it for several hours at a time.
Okay.
Okay. So I don't think this is going to work out well for you if you do the math.
No,
because if the Earth is flat, it's got to be significantly larger radius.
Well, and that's exactly what I found, though. I just showed you that that's what I found.
No, but you started with the wrong number for the entire race distance. You started with 16,000 miles. It's 27,000 miles. Then you used that number that you just pulled up there. That's only for a limited time, and it's not for the entire race. By your own citation.
Well, okay. I told you, actually, you weren't listening. So what I told you at first was I assumed conservatively that they were only going, looking at my math here. Okay, yeah. So for 19 hours a day, I was assuming if they were only going 19 hours a day and they're sleeping the other 5 hours, because I only found out afterwards that they don't sleep, okay? That's 5 hours a day. They're not even going anywhere, and it would still be over 50,000 miles.
No,
so I don't know how you.
But I just ran the numbers
for that.
Right, 24,000 nautical miles. Right, we're gonna go 24 hours a day. So 24,000 miles, 80 days. That's 300 nautical miles a day, 24 hours a day. 12.5 nautical miles an hour average.
And these are the fastest yachts in the world.
Sure.
I don't find that believable.
In your long experience of yachting?
Well, no, just by what I've just read you that they tell us.
So what you read is in favorable winds, forward gains on the map versus boat speed can be like 10-1, right? So that's what one person is saying. But here's the point. Your citation talks specifically about favorable conditions.
No, I just told you where for 5 hours a day for 80 days, I showed 0 miles per hour. That's what I'm telling you. And it was still over 50,000 miles. So that would have been an average speed closer to much less than what those boats are capable of. And even if they were going 12 miles an hour, you still have a huge problem here. Do you not see that?
No.
Oh, okay, so we're doing the fastest yacht race in the world, and you can only go 12 miles an hour.
It's not the fastest yacht race in the world.
It's certainly the furthest.
This isn't the America's Cup where these yachts are made for speed. This is a long distance endurance race that goes almost 3 months. Okay.
Much like the rest of our conversation, I don't find your explanations to be reasonable or convincing at all. It's just explanations, explaining what we see, trying to explain it away, which is what Glovers always do.
You tried to do the math. You got everything wrong.
No, I didn't. I stand by that math. The only thing I got wrong was a technicality. And so what you do is you take a technicality.
It's not a technicality.
And you try to throw the baby out with the
You started with
bathwater.
16,000 miles instead of 24,000 miles.
You know, you're not as smart as you think you are just because you studied in college. You're really not that smart. You're literally throwing out the whole entire thing because of a small technicality. And it just doesn't even make sense.
Okay.
But you know what? I think I'm done talking with you, Mike. It hasn't been very fun, and I'm disappointed.
Yeah, I was too.
No.
I was hoping you'd be the first one to have a video of the ships going over the horizon and then Zoom bringing them back, but you didn't.
I've noticed that Globers don't want to see what they don't want to see.
I
so
want
they
you to
just
send
ignore
that to me. Send that to find the video and send it to me.
it. I'd be happy to.
Yeah, go ahead. I want to see it over the horizon or being obstructed bottom up and then Zoom reducing that.
All right. Good night, everyone.
All right. Oh, poor guy. I mean, he just basically sat there and said, I'm dumb. Therefore, it's wrong. So I'm sorry, people. I didn't get to ask him these questions. I'll go through these super chats. Thank you so much for them. But I'm sorry, he didn't want to he didn't want to play the game. Anyway, all right. Corntac, Greg, you don't trust the gov, yet thin blue line on the wall. Are all cops infallible, unlike scientists and all elected officials? For your information, I'm a TBL and BLM advocate. Oh, TBL? Thin blue line and BLM. Okay. Very nice. Simon Green. For £5 says, Greg, last time you drew a solar eclipse on your whiteboard, please can you draw and explain a solar eclipse using a flat earth, a local sun and a local moon? We know where that would have gone. Where would that have gone? It would have gone nowhere. Yeah. They're like the Selenelian eclipse. I'm sorry. I didn't. You need to change the topic because you know you can't explain it, and you just like, oh, these are not the droids you're looking for. I'm not fooled by that. By the way, Selenelian is completely predicted by the globe. String News 1, do animals sin? The human race is only 10,000 years old, so how is sin related to millions of years? Yeah, so I didn't want to get into that topic. It's not this debate topic, but does an animal dying equate to sin? It does not. So I don't know. I never was very... I always thought that was one of the weaker arguments that the young Earth creationists ever made. I suppose there's worse. Messing Around says, Gutsick Gibbon makes great videos about young Earth creationism that are very informative. So is Gutsick Gibbon I can't even tell by that, is a young Earth creationist that's making some good claims or somebody that's refuting young Earth creationism? Interesting. Natty Ice says, my camera quality is amazing. Thanks. It's a Sony A6100, Alpha 6100. SifeDK, not Alyssum. SifeDK helped me to pick it out. It's got the kit lens. It's nothing fancy there. Alyssum for $5 does not make sense. It makes sense to everyone that passed grade 5 physics. Your lack of education is not an argument against reality. Very true, very true. Tribal Guy 2, Greg, when you don't understand what's explained, don't move along. Stop until you do understand it. You're not dumb, just obstinate. Do you think he could have solved a triangle? I don't think any amount of explaining could help him to solve a triangle, to understand that if you just know 3 facts about the 6 facts of a triangle, with the ASS exception, the angle side side, that you can know the rest of it, right? It completely baffled him. He can't figure out that triangles can tell you things about distant objects. And I think that's pretty common for flat earthers. They're like, did you bring a tape measure to it? How could you measure it if you didn't bring a tape measure to it? Like, oh, jeez. Oh, okay. Microraptor says she is a biologist studying evolution. That referring to Gutsick Gibbon. Okay, so that makes sense. She's not going with the young Earth creationism. Stringer News 1 says, calls out Toon for not doing his own experiments out one side of his mouth, then proceeds to quote mine. Quote mine. I tell you, I am glad he was unable to get the video for Dearth working, or the audio, because that guy's voice, oh, so grating. Many Karen says, so I don't trust anything science says unless I think it supports me. A PhD in cherry picking. Absolutely. He's happy to cite Airy's failure and Michelson-Morley, but ignore Michelson-Gale because it doesn't suit his pre-selected conclusion. Facty says, I can't pinpoint his Papa Flurf. And I asked him, I don't know if he understood the question, if Dearth is his Papa Flurf. Yeah, I don't know. It can't be Skiba right now. Not anymore. But yeah, he's a bit of a religiflurf. So who else is it? Nathan Roberts has gone away. He wasn't a Nathan Thompson guy or an Austin Whitsitt guy. That's a good one. Yeah, he did not talk much about Globebusters type stuff. But when he had the chance, he went to Dearth. So I'm kind of thinking Dearth is probably his primary. Mr. Tube, first name Fa, says, Greg, Halloween is over. Put away the straw men. Absolutely. Stringer News 1. I love this one. I'm just an unfrozen caveman lawyer. Your world frightens and confuses me. Therefore, Earth is flat. How's that? Good caveman. Listen, Greg, MC Toon has explained in a way that everyone with average intelligence can understand. Your argument is that you are too stupid to understand. Yes, Greg. I'm just a basic guy. No, you're not, Greg. You don't understand conservation of momentum. Children do. You didn't understand how to solve a triangle. Taught in 8th grade. Yeah. Dave Rogers, I'm a high school dropout, working class nobody, and it even makes sense to me. Don't choose to be ignorant for the sake of defiance and paranoia. Yeah. Stringer News 1. Oh, I like this. Whoever walks with the wise becomes wise, but the companion of fools will suffer harm. Proverbs 13:20. No matter where you sit on religion in the Bible, there's some wisdom in that statement there, isn't there? Alyssum, Greg. Alyssum says, Greg, all the listeners know that you're a liar. Even the other flat earthers know it. Ooh, another one from Stringer News 1. Beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravenous wolves. Matthew 7:15. That's Dearth, isn't it? I mean, he's just a scammer. That's all he wants. Aaron Webster says, hell, I'm an ex-addict of 20 years and a high school dropout, and even I understood the way you explained it. Toon, willful ignorance isn't an excuse. Well, I'm glad it was. I never know. I mean, I understand it, so I'm never can be internally certain until I get some feedback that it was well understood. So, thank you. William Foley Kent. I'm not prepared for that. Hovind Award winner. Yes. He wanted to talk about boats going over the horizon being brought back by Zoom, but didn't have a video ready. So, Thad Feta Place. Am I pronouncing that right? I hope I am. Let me close this down. I don't need the Zoom call open anymore. go. And all right. There we go. So yeah, Thad, $2 super chat, but no message. So thank you for that. String News 1 again with Exodus 20, verse 3. You shall have no other gods before me. Greg, zoom and magic. I mean, he just went right down standard flurf. You know, I'm like, you're not going to show it. You're going to show me something being too small and then zooming in and you can then see it. And that's what he showed. That's all they have. Thad. Oh, all right. So this might be it. Thad says, let me know when the Sextant debate happens. Will a flat earther participate in a Sextant debate on outside of Nathan Oakley's channel? I don't know. That seems very unlikely. Because Wolfie 6020 had his Sextant challenge. I think a monetary challenge to explain how a sextant can pinpoint your location on flat Earth without using any globe Earth, background information. Right? He's not going to get any takers. Not one. But anyway, I'd love to see that. And so if any flat earther would like to participate in a debate on sextants, using them to pinpoint your location on the Earth, the SC Tune Show, I think, is a fantastic venue for that. So reach out to me, flat earthers, if you think you can support the position of the sextant being used to accurately position yourself on the flat Earth. And we'll set that up. Pseudo Nim says, before cameras and ships are too small to see, didn't people conclude the Earth was round because ships go over the horizon to see? Why the change in Pixie? Yes, exactly. It wasn't that they got too small to see and then that was it. They saw them getting obstructed bottom up. Ships thousands of years ago were tall. They had sails. You could see them. The biggest ships had the biggest, tallest sails. So I've been to the ocean and I've been like right down low and then gone up, and you can see a difference in how much is obstructed. So yeah, you can see with the naked eye. But if it's just a tiny little ship, no. And they always get confused. They think that when the camera's zoomed all the way out, that's the equivalent of the naked eye. He even said, well, look, you can see this. You can't see it with the naked eye. I don't know if you can see it with the naked eye. That's a camera, not the naked eye. If I remember correctly, the zoom, all the way zoomed out on the P900 is a wider angle of view than the human eye. So it makes it even more deceptive. Marty Man Scientist says, my science create things like computers, iPhones, videos, GPS maps, etc. What have flat world beliefs created that I can see, touch, and use? Well, I mean, Bob Nodell got his 15 degree per hour drift. Jaron got his interesting, where the light was obstructed somehow. We've got Bev that confirmed the observations of the Blackpool Tower. So thanks, Bev. So Earth is Life, QFA 14, Argentina to Darwin, Australia, 9,225 miles, 521 miles per hour, 17.7. Was it 17.7? Yes, they flew over Antarctica. Impossible on flat Earth. Yes. And yeah, you said that. You said that last time with Robert and Brad. We've got Truth Nerd says. Truth Nerd says Greg came in calling every Christian who does not share his literal faith in a non-believer, then later complained about having his dishonesty exposed. They sure can dish it out, but not take it. Oh yeah, Ranty and more. What have flat earthers done? Ranty at the running track with the egg and the Buddha, disproving Nathan Oakley's angle of attack, where he zoomed in and you could still see it all. So, Mr. Unite for the Children, that wasn't a rage quit. That was a rage quit. Lovely. Surrey News 1. In the Bible Belt, there's nothing as loathsome as a person who says, "Trust me, I'm a Christian," then proceeds to rip people off. Shameful. So a guy I used to work with used to be a fire and brimstone preacher in the foothills of the Smoky Mountains in Georgia. And he's no longer. He's gone absolutely the other direction. And he said he caught somebody who said he was going to walk on water, setting up some structure underneath the water so that he could walk on it. Yeah. And it was going to be like, everybody come down to the river to see me walk in water, and of course, give money. Microraptor, isn't it a no true Scotsman to call them fake Christians? It is. In a debate, it's certainly, yeah, it's a fallacy. But why did I say it? Probably not correct of me to have said it. I'm offended, though, when people claiming to be Christians lie about stuff, right? So I maybe shouldn't have jumped to fake Christian. I think it's fair to say he's lying about stuff. So there you go. Cretan Ball, we just witnessed a masterclass in nuh-uh. Yes. Or how about I didn't understand it, therefore fake. That's, yeah. Average Joe for £5. I'm sorry if I offended anyone with my views. Is that a poke at him for his views? Greg's views? I don't know. Mr. Unite for the Children. Dearth predated a vulnerable 100-year predated. He was a predator? I don't know. Anyway, Dearth predated a vulnerable 100-year-old woman and made her cry, then smiled because he thought he'd get YouTube views for it. He deserves the worst that can happen to him. Yes. The 100-year-old woman. And this and flat earthers use this as their undeniable proof that flat earth was always taught everywhere, all the time, to everyone 100 years ago. One old lady in a nursing home. That's it. Was she remembering correctly? Don't know. Was she from Zion, Illinois, where they taught that 100 years ago? Because it was a cult that ran the town, and a cult leader that was in charge of everything, who later turned out as Voliva, Mr. Voliva, who later they found out when his house started on fire that he had an awful lot of lavish things in his house. The rest of the town was living in squalor. Yeah. So typical, the flat earthers, they're just scummy people. Alyssum says, I'm always skeptical when I hear someone homeschooling their kids, but it seems that with you, they get a competent teacher. Lucky kids. Well, thanks. My wife is the competent teacher. Let me be very clear on that. She spends so much time with them. I'm in here, and right out there is the living room. And I hear all day, every day, because I'm still working from home, her teaching them. It's a ton of work. For me, I give them the book. I play the video for math. I talk about science. I talk about math. But yeah, they have a workbook. They have a book they read. They have a video they read for math. I help them when they're stuck, but it's my wife. She's the one that deserves the credit. So, Jane Doe says, thanks for the doubleheader tonight. Your brain must really hurt after so many hours flurf. But, NASA sends me protection in the form of artificially sweetened 80s beverage with this can holder that somebody sent me. Oh my gosh. Why did I forget the name? Colony L3. I don't know why I keep forgetting the name. Colony L3 3D printed this for me, and this flat earth globe here. So thank you very much. Average Joe, what do I do for fun? You just watched 4 hours of fun. I do this for fun. I don't. Yeah, this is fun for me. So, otherwise, what do I do for fun? Oh, I built a trebuchet with my friends. We've been known to do some certain things for fun called hurl. So we with the trebuchet we hurl bowling balls and bicycles and grills and TVs and wheelchairs and running lawnmowers. Yeah, running lawnmowers. Oh, you got to get a 2-stroke though. The green lawn boys are the best if you can get them, and they're running because they don't stall in the air. The 4-stroke stall in the air. So we get it going, and then it launches, and it's going in the air, and then step 1, defeat the safety mechanism. So we wrap up the handle so that it stays on, and when it's in the air, it's just spinning like crazy. And then it hits the ground and it stops. It's just silence. It's so beautiful. But we also, the winter activity is hurling also, where we mix up elbow noodles and cream corn and oatmeal and other stuff and put it in a bag where there's a nozzle right there. And then we go outside in a parking lot or something and pretend to get sick and spew it on the ground. There you go. Sorry. That's what I do for fun. It's a bit strange. Andreas Eld for 56 says the Earth's tilt and seasons are not taught in university but in primary school, or is it preschool? Does this mean he's a primary school dropout? Yeah, he could not handle some primary school concepts like conservation of momentum. No, geez. I mean, how can you just be that dumb to think that the helicopter? Because Nathan Oakley lies. Nathan Oakley says Coriolis is, and then makes up this thing that it's not. Why can a helicopter hover and not just stand still and wait for the Earth to rotate underneath it? Conservation of momentum. Average Joe, I like this that you do. I restore clocks and classic cars. Oh, cool. Classic cars and clocks. All right. MC Toon is Chunk from the Goonies. He played the fake barf trick too. Yep. Gauden's Braver. How is someone rather normal as Greg so unreasonable? He's not that smart. That's why he wasn't able to just do these basic things, and he was fooled by these snake oil salesmen, basically. That's how. So it's possible to, you don't need to be smart, but you need the right constellation of things, right? You have to not be able to understand these concepts. You have to be gullible enough. You have to be unwilling enough to go do independent research on it, right? You have to think that watching more YouTube videos from flat earthers is research. It's not. I think there's a set of things that are required that they all kind of have to happen. Then a couple other optional things, and that's how they get in. But it tends to be a one-way trip because they tie it to religion then, right? Greg isn't going anywhere. He's going to continue being a flat earther because he imagines that God decrees that. So, no, I'm not going to do the truffle shuffle. Justin Verrill says, I'm streaming late. Did I miss a good read? Yes, I thought it was good. I don't know. It wasn't Cation's good, but I enjoyed it. Greg goes, yeah, so average Joe. I'm brain damaged and a lot smarter than Greg. So, well, that's that. It is 1 a.m. It is 1 a.m. for me. I'm not going to bed yet. I tell you, after this, I can't go to sleep for at least an hour. So Safety K. When are you going to the Caca Lake? Do you mean Lake Titicaca? I'd love to. I don't know if I'm going to be going to Argentina anytime soon. So, anyway, I am so excited. We have the SC Tune show is right around 2,000 subscribers. We've booked our first debate, and we are just about confirmed on the second debate on December 10th and December 17th. Then we'll probably take at least 1 week off because that Christmas is on the weekend, and we're not going to do that. And then we're going to do, maybe we'll see about doing one on the New Year's weekend. But then after that, we're going to shoot for having one every weekend. And the topics are open. The first debate is on legalizing cannabis. The second one is flat earth. I'm going to try to book a guy that wants to debate 5G. Schrodinger's cat was just contacted by somebody that wants to do another round of debate on First Amendment auditors. So we've got stuff already going. A vegan has contacted me, wants to represent that side. So if you are interested in representing the non-vegan side and have the appropriate background, let me know. We'll get that debate set up. So, so get Mark Steele on. He won't debate me. He won't debate me. Mark Steele knows. So, let's see. Make proper visible thumbnails and titles for SC Tunes so to be better to see new streams among other content. Yeah, and making a good thumbnail I know is very important. So I will do that. If people are interested in doing artwork, doing video intros and outros, those are things that contact me. So anyway, that's what I've got for tonight. Thank you so much, everybody. It's been a lot. It's been a lot. 3 streams. I did my 13,000 subscriber special first, and then participated just a little bit with Robert Greenlee, and then this one. So anyway, thank you, everybody. We will see you next time. You want to see the cube? You want to see the cube? Hold on. I mess with it the whole time. But Heat Shield wants to see the cube. I have it here, but it's not messed up. I'll mess it up. Right. All right. I can do it. I'll do it. There you go. Last one. All right. There you go. You happy? Good and messed up? All right. I'm going to focus this time. I'm not going to talk to you all. So there we go. But, then I feel like I should do something so that you're hearing something. Otherwise, it's just these clickety clacks of the cube here. Where does that go? There we go. it is. Got the top, the first row, working on the second row. And somebody sent me an improvement, and I haven't learned it yet. You know, do that, or, you know, make a video. Like, I know how to do this. So, play Freebird. I can't play Freebird. I can just press play. That's all I can do. All right, move that. There we go. All in the right spot. Post-credit scene. Stan Lee won't be in this post-credit scene. There we go. Oh, nice. That worked out well. There it is. All done for you, Heat Shield. And this time, I'm out. We'll see you.